Thanks ever so much.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to come. What a lovely group, and it is nice in a circle. So I can see you all with my glasses on, but I will have to take them off to read, so you'll see me taking them on and off throughout. So with the write-up I wrote for this talk, I hope to answer some of the questions that I put in that, which is, how does one consciously embrace fifth dimensional living? What is happening to our DNA? Are we simply passive in this process? Can we, through the power of our thoughts, actually create changes within the DNA in order to access fifth dimensional living? What was the significance of the summer solstice that we've just experienced on June 21st? And how does that relate to our DNA and living in the fifth dimension? So I'm not going to answer those questions directly. What actually happened was some channeling came forward a couple of weeks ago that was a response to a completely different question. But as the response came forward, there were so many concepts within the answer that related to the books that I've recently channeled. So I thought I would save this particular transmission for this group. As Denise said, this is exclusive content that hasn't gone on YouTube yet. So we are being filmed, but none of you are actually on the camera. But if you've got any issues with being filmed, or if there's anything you say and you want that cut out, that's no problem. So is there anybody here who's never heard of me, not familiar with my work whatsoever? Okay. In that case, I will go very briefly through my story. I will be brief because I have said it so many times, but it's not fair on you to not know. So, in 1993, I made a conscious, deliberate decision to move into channeling after all sorts of things that happened throughout my life in my childhood. In 1993, I found a book called Channeling, which was a series of meditations to connect you to your spirit guide. I followed these meditations, not really, to be honest with you, knowing what on earth I was doing. I was a bit of a beginner, even though I'd had all sorts of experiences as a child. But after a while, I did make a connection with this entity, this light being. And at first, I had to go into meditation to make a connection with this being. He told me his name was White Spirit and that he was from the fifth dimension. But it wasn't long before it was completely a surprise to me. Somebody asked me a question, and I was trying to remember the question, to go into meditation, find White Spirit, ask him the question and get the answer. And as I was thinking of the question, White Spirit was there while I was fully awake and not in meditation, which was a huge shock to me. So I then was able to communicate with him all the time. I didn't need to go into meditation, so he'd be there in the day when I'm doing housework or when I'm walking around the shops, etc., etc. So that went on from the year 1993, on and off. I made regular contact with this being, and he told me all sorts of amazing information that I'd never heard anywhere before. And in the year 2000, I was told that he would be leaving my space and a new being would be coming in. I was quite upset about that at the time. But he explained to me that this new being was just a upgraded, higher dimensional version of himself in alignment with my own expansion. So this fifth dimensional being walked out of my space, or upgraded, or transformed, and I had with me one white-winged being that presented very much like a typical angel. But I couldn't believe that an angel would actually talk to me, so I just presumed that it was a being with white wings. And then, after a while, this one white-winged presentation morphed into a group, and I counted them, and there were 9. So I asked them, who are you? They told me they were from the 6th dimension, and I asked them why they were presenting as 9. I asked them all sorts of questions. I didn't get a lot of answers about that, but what I was told is that their true form was beyond form. So I asked if I could see their true form, and they showed me the nearest that form would be, which was very much space, cosmic energy, stars, planets, light, that sort of thing. So I carried on communicating with them, and right back in 1993, White Spirit had told me that there was this shift occurring on this planet, that there were great changes occurring, and that I would be part of these great changes. And they said, we'll let you know when the time comes that this will occur. because I'd been doing drama at that time, they told me that I was currently going through a dress rehearsal in 1993. But there would come a time that would be showtime, as in performance, which I thought was great, and I expected it to be sort of 6 months later. But they never did say that to me, and I kind of forgot about this. And it wasn't until 2008 that they said to me, do you remember when we told you, when White Spirit told you, that this was a dress rehearsal and that there would eventually be a time when we would say it's performance time? And I said yes, and they said, well, that's now. This was 2008. So I said, what do you mean now? And basically they were saying to me, now it's performance time, now this change that we were speaking about is occurring, and we need you to tell people that you talk to us. And I said, who do you want me to tell? And they basically said, everyone. They told me to go public. And so I started to, after synchronicity, it wasn't a decision actually, I saw on YouTube that other people had made some spiritual sort of videos with a sort of stream of consciousness. And I said to my partner, who was quite eager to be creative and make arty videos, I said, if I bring forward some of the channeling from the 9, will you create a video? And he said yes. So that's what we started to do in 2008, and it wasn't very long before I realised people were interested in these videos, and they started to write to me and they started to ask me questions. 2 years later, I'd had so many requests for personal consultations that I then opened for personal sessions. And I did readings with clients all over the world for 7 years. And then in 2016, I brought forward a new channeling, which I presumed was another video for YouTube. And this channeling went on for quite some time, and then I realised this isn't a video, it's a book. So that was Masters of the Matrix. And then in 2017, I consciously wanted to write another book. So that information all came through, and I didn't realise it would be a follow-on from Masters of the Matrix, but it was. And that's Divine Architecture in the Starseed Template. And then my latest book, which was released just a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks, I think, is The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame. So before I just move to this channeling, I will just very briefly explain the format of these 3 books. So, sorry, sit next to me here. So this first one, Masters of the Matrix, I had no idea what the information would be, but my partner was asking me questions about contracts. What are past life contracts? Why do we even make them? Have we all got them? If we've got them, can we get rid of them? Are they good? Are they bad? And I'm saying, hold on, I don't know the answer. Wait a minute, I have to ask the 9. So the 9 came forward and started to talk to my partner about these past life contracts, and they started to talk about Masters of the Matrix, how we are Masters of the Matrix, how we need to learn to have mastery over our energetic field. A few days later, I asked them to bring this information back through that they talked to me about a few days ago, and that's when this book ended up being written. So this book is very much about awareness of oneself as an energy system, as a matrix. So you are being taught in this book matrix awareness, and then you are being taught matrix mastery, which is mastery over your entire energy system, making you sovereign and making you immune from hijacking, if you like, from other entities or structures, other people's thoughts. And the book goes into a lot more, but that's the basic format of this one. Then this one goes one step further and starts to talk about matrix architecture, as in you are the architect and you construct your matrix. So although your matrix is already constructed, the fact that you construct it in your mind allows you to connect with it in a very deep way and learn about it. This matrix, this symbol here, is actually your DNA. But what this is presented as is the DNA is such a complex structure. It is really a toroidal field. It is a series of spiraling geometric shape. And it is pretty much, I won't say impossible, but very difficult for us to interpret that DNA structure in a third dimensional sense. And so the 9 bring forward direction in order for our third dimensional brain to make sense of this. So direction as in up, down, right, left, and diagonal. So this is the structure, and this book assists you in constructing it. When you do this, you are actually activating your DNA, creating changes within your DNA. And in this book, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, Sacred Mysteries of Stargate Ascension, takes this one step further as well. And this goes into Stargate Ascension. So this is about understanding your matrix so deeply so that you are able to retain memory in this lifetime and retain memory through the death experience. Normally we have to die in order to go through this life review, analyse everything, and then, if you like, make a new life plan. But Ascension is about doing that while you are still here in the body. And that's basically what this is. We're going through a life review while we're here. And so this book goes into that. And so this particular channeling that came through a couple of weeks ago is in response to a completely different question, actually, that just came into my mind. The nine were talking to me about positive distraction. And I thought, well, how can distraction be positive? I thought distraction was a very negative thing. It's a control tool. And so I'm going to read this channeling, and then I'll go through an analysis of that channeling, and then that will take me into more explanations of the material that's come through over the last 3 years that are in the books. So I haven't actually titled the channeling itself, but the title of this talk, which may end up being the title of the book, is Trinity. The title of this talk may end up being the title of the video. Trinity into Infinity, Creating the Fifth Dimension Through Knowing the Light of the DNA and Stargate Ascension. So I'll read through this, and then I'll go through an analysis of this in bullet points. Obviously, I can't analyse the entire channeling, because we'll be here till tomorrow, well into tomorrow. Dear Nine, you've been speaking to me about positive distraction. How can this be the case? I understand about negative distraction and how we can distract ourselves through the inverted system that's been deliberately set up for us by the control structure. I understand that they use distraction as a tool to herd us like sheep or control us so that we cannot think for ourselves. I'm aware of this, and this is widely known amongst individuals. So apologies to anyone who doesn't know this, but this talk isn't really about that, and I know that can sound quite dark, but these books are here as tools to assist you in dealing with what's really happening on this planet, and we do need to learn about the control side of things and the dark side of things, as well as the light. It's not all fluffy bunny and roses. It's serious work as well. I'm aware of this, and this is widely known amongst individuals. How, therefore, can distraction be a positive action? Is distraction not the complete opposite of action? Therefore, if one is not taking action or is outside of action, how is this in any way positive? And I really didn't understand this, so I asked the Nine this question myself, and here is their response. You are correct that distraction is a tool utilised by service-to-self factions within third and fourth dimensional reality. Even the teachings of the dimensional scale itself can be utilised as distraction by service-to-self groups. Distraction is one of the major control tools at the disposal of the service-to-self elite factions. Therefore, it is most useful, shall we say, to understand the nature of distraction. For when the control tool is understood, and that understanding is unravelled and processed, it ceases to be a control tool for that individual, group or structure. Distraction therefore loses its power. The opposing force, if you will, to distraction, despite the terminology itself, is not action, but focus. We would extend this to aware focus. You cannot be distracted by anything if you hold aware focus. This is of most import to understand. Therefore, we shall repeat, you cannot be distracted by anything if you hold aware focus. Why is this? It is because if you hold aware focus, then you are always on your path and therefore not distracted. It is correct that many are aware of the control tool that is distraction and why it is used. and indeed how it is used within your systems upon your planet. It is most encouraging, shall we say, for us in higher dimensional form to see, to witness, the awareness that spreads through the group of individuals that make up the starseed community. The starseeded ones that collectively create the entity, deity or goddess presentation of divine feminine form that is the Princess Aurora, daughter of the flame. As awareness spreads, as knowledge is shared, and as awakening and DNA activation takes place, then the divine Princess Aurora, beloved daughter of the flame, of the Christed twin flame couple that is Christa and Christos, or Sophia and Christ, becomes more and more of light, shall we say. The vibrancy of her colour, her hue, presented as separate colour particles, as the form you recognise in the third dimension, becomes merged and melded as the rainbow. So too are you this rainbow, for each of you is the divine particle that makes up this group soul, divine feminine logos deity that stands as your cosmic central sun. She becomes so merged in colour, so bright, so brilliant, that one would have to shield their eyes from her light, for she burns as brightly as your physical sun. As the divine feminine central sun, she is the plasma sun, and all as her starts from all that is you, collectively as one. Since the energetic spike upon your planet that was your June 21st solstice point, the collective timeline jump that took place, presented as a cosmic ascension wave of consciousness, has brought to so many of you newfound awareness, newfound awakening, and a newfound experience within your consciousness. This newfound experience is that which we call bilocation and trilocation, and it equates to triple helix and beyond the triple helix DNA formation, which is a match to predominantly fifth dimensional consciousness, for it is the reconstruction of the fifth DNA strand, if you will. The DNA strand reconstruction can be confusing for many of you to visualize as you aim to see 5 strands or 5 helixes swirling within your DNA. And these are linear interpretations of an extremely multidimensional and unified process. Therefore, we would ask you instead to visualize the collective consciousness that is the entire starseed community. Then, if you will, imagine that this entire collective consciousness makes up one being, and this being is female in form. If you see her within your mind's eye quite clearly, this gives you the presentation that is the double helix. You see her face, her clothing, her hair, her entire form. Then, if you will, see her begin to take on a glow, as if she were in fact a star. And we give you here a clue to your true self when we say this. As if she were a star, she glows as a star does. You still see her form, but she emits such powerful celestial light and an energy that is indescribably beautiful, organic and pure. This is your triple helix, moving into beyond the triple helix, if you will. And as this starlight glow continues to brightly shine like a star, the light becomes brighter and brighter until all form of the human presentation of feminine goddess deity, or ascended master, if you will, becomes that of pure light. The bright colours merge and become the rainbow, and the brightness of the plasmic light glows and shines and beams as the sun. We give you here another clue as to your true self. And this is your beyond the triple helix, moving into your infinite helix, if you will. This is the visualization that shall show you the configuration that is the 5th strand. For so many of you see this as, I now have 5 threads, and I am working my way up to 12 threads, and then I will be whole. Whereas in truth, the situation is more akin to, I am light, so bright. Now I am configured in the formation known as 5th strand. I am light so bright that the light as the sun is beaming and shining within a sea of light, as I join my light with infinite suns, as the sea is an infinite sea of light. You cannot visualize that which is the brightness of which we speak in your physically incarnated form. Yet if you know you are the sun, the diamond sun, shining within a fractalized hall of mirrors that are diamond suns, then this diamond light body you see, that is the true divine Princess Aurora, is you and all that is you. You are not a configuration of intertwining standalone strands. You are an ever-expanding, radiating charge of quantum diamond plasmic light. This is you. This is your fifth strand. When you are here in this place, standing as the divine Princess Aurora, operating from the diamond sun perspective, you cannot be distracted, for here there is no distraction. Translated into third-dimensional linear terms, we would call this positive distraction simply because intentionalized aware focus is held wherever you look, and that state of consciousness is operated from in whatever you do. Translating this into actual third-dimensional experience, this would look something like the one who stops working upon the focused spiritual mission and takes a few days off and goes on holiday. Yet the holiday leads them to places that hold the deep memories of the entire reality fields, buried in the standing stones and the rocks and the crystals. The new experience, new energy grid matrix felt by the traveller presents the pilgrimage, the path of the sun, and the distraction of the holiday becomes a deeper awakening and intensity for the one who was distracted from their work and took a holiday. Or indeed, there is positive distraction of thought. Let us take the one who is producing the spiritual creation, and many want to share that spiritual creation. The creator of the creation is excited beyond measure that so many want the creation that they become ungrounded regarding their role or their elevation or their importance within the collective journey that is Ascension. Therefore, the few days off or the holiday or the relaxation, that is the reading of the book or the watching of the film or the long leisurely walk, is indeed the positive distraction. For the manifestation creation coming from a seed point trajectory of self-importance and spiritual elevation is a manifestation creation that is out of alignment with the Creator's individualized core mission. The distraction is that which brings the Creator back into alignment with the individualized core mission as he or she remembers not to elevate or place above, as the relaxation into the pleasant and happy distraction balances the perspective. That which we speak of here is presented within your planetary awareness as the saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, or indeed Jill a dull girl, as the case may be. That which is dull here, within our example of the positive distraction, is not dull as in the boring one, the uninteresting one, but dull in the case of lost their brightness and their glow, which equates to a fallback in DNA configuration and a reverting back to the double helix. This is all part of the non-linear process that is Ascension, and 12-strand into 144-strand DNA reconfiguration. Yet our point here is to present to you the positive aspect of distraction. Yet what is the most import here for you to see, dear Starseed? We say to you this: as you understand and utilise the tool of distraction within its positive aspect, you change the entire frequency of distraction itself. This in turn changes the entire structure of that which is distraction, is utilised for by service to self factions. For distraction can only be effective if it is hidden, unseen, and mysterious in its complexity. When you see it and utilise it for your own individualised positive growth within your awakening process, When you do this collectively as Divine Princess Aurora, then distraction loses its power amongst the masses within the inverted system, and the inverted system itself begins to crumble and transform. What is left after the crumbling is the emergence of the true system of light. And this is indeed the situation now upon your third dimensional Earth. So stand strong, dear starseeds, within your focused awareness, and allow yourselves the positive distractions that are the holidays, the leisure time, the celebrations and the dancing. The ceremonies and that which is the hiatus is as much the path towards the light as the focus that is your spiritual work, your divine mission. So we invite you to take a few days off, if you will, for your relaxation, your joy, and your positive distraction is that which shall turn up the dial upon your inner light that is the true central sun. The diamond sun light body, that is that which we call fifth strand configuration, is an ever-increasing presentation of plasmic light that is the quantum glow that is you. Indeed, you glow. You all literally glow as the stars, as celestial ascension is well underway. The diamond sun light body is simply the expansive extension of that which we call celestial, and you are all these things. As we have said before, when you have three, you have all, and the triple helix into beyond the triple helix is a no-time, non-linear merge with the infinite helix. Trinity into infinity is the mantra, and the mantra is the code. We are the white-winged collective consciousness of 9. So, I'm just going to take a sip of water. So that is the recent channeling that came forward. So I'm now going to go through an analysis of the most important parts that I feel to talk about and link them to the material in the book. And then we can break for questions if you like, or we can do a meditation, whatever you would prefer. So the first line here, you are correct that distraction is a tool utilised by service to self factions within third and fourth dimensional reality. Even the teachings of the dimensional scale itself can be utilised as distraction by service to self groups. Does everyone here know what is meant by service to self groups or negative elite? Is there anyone that does not understand what this means?
I haven't got a clue.
You don't. Okay, so very briefly, we have, when we incarnate into this reality, we incarnate into 2 different vibrational presentations. One is a positive vibration, if you like, and one is a negative vibration. And within our incarnations, throughout our entire journey as a soul, we make choices as to which vibration we are led by or which vibration we polarize into. So with this particular Earth right now in 2018, the majority of individuals on this planet are actually unpolarized, leading towards a positive vibration. Therefore, they are in the process of making a choice, if you like, from a linear point of view. Everyone in this room and anyone who is following a conscious spiritual path is polarized positive. But there are individuals who deliberately aim to polarize negative. These are service to self individuals as opposed to service to others. They hold a very different viewpoint, a very different perspective. So a service to others individual who is on a spiritual path would think to themselves, we are all one. Everyone in this room is me, therefore I love myself, therefore I love everyone here, therefore I want to safeguard the well-being of all these individuals, for they are me, for we are all one. And we're all fully aware of this beautiful unity consciousness. So that's service to others. But service to self would think, I am here and I am the divine, for I am awakening within my connection to the divine. We are all one, but as long as I exist and I have a connection to the divine, it doesn't matter if you all exist. I could actually, get rid of you all if I wanted to. As long as I exist, there is still divinity. So it's the same understanding of unity, but perceived as I'm everything rather than we are everything. And it's literally practiced within the third dimension. So these service to self factions, these negative elite, are within this planet right now. They are in our government systems, they are in politics, they have been for thousands of years controlling this planet. This planet put out a call because of this, a collective consciousness call, as in, we wish to progress, we wish to ascend, we wish to go to the next level of awareness, the next level of evolution, and we cannot because this planet is controlled. Therefore, please help us. And the answer to that was not necessarily a huge bunch of light ships coming down and extraterrestrials getting out saying, we're here, or Jesus Christ coming back in a cloud bubble of beautiful white light saying, I'm here to save you. It was starseeds. It was individuals across the planetary cosmic multiverse that all undertook a simultaneous mission, because everything had to be done from the human point of view due to free will. So that's why everyone in this room is here. We are here to teach about what's happening on this planet and how are we going to help everyone and free everyone and answer that call. But we're doing very well right now. There's been an amazing shift. So the service to self factions, if you study perhaps the work of people like David Icke, I'm not saying all his work is 100% accurate, there's much metaphor there, but there is a lot of truth in his work, and there are many others that teach this. So that's basically the service to self negative elite, also known as Illuminati, also known as the Cabal, many names for them. So, analysing that, you are correct that distraction is a tool utilised by service to self factions within third and fourth dimensional reality. What my interpretation here of the Nine's channeling is that the service to self factions use distraction to keep us busy. So we don't stop and we don't ask the big questions such as, what's the meaning of my existence? Why am I here? Why am I on Earth in the first place? What is Earth? Is it even a planet? Why am I here? And those questions, once you ask them, it changes your reality, because the particles within the overall matrix that is reality want to be seen. Because they are you. This is a unified reality. So when you ask these questions, what's the meaning of my existence? Those particles are going to show themselves to you, and they are going to show you, within your subjective reality, the answer to your question. So that triggers mass awakening, and that triggers sovereignty and empowerment, which everyone on a spiritual path is aware of, and there are many, many, many teachers teaching sovereignty and empowerment. So distraction is one of the major control tools at the disposal of the service to self-elite factions. Therefore, it is most useful, shall we say, to understand the nature of distraction. So this is about the nature of distraction as a tool to sovereignty and empowerment, as in understanding it, understanding what it means. This entire channeling and this entire talk I'm doing this evening is not about the negative elite. It's about understanding distraction and how we can use that as a tool to sovereignty and empowerment and assist with deconstructing the service to self, Cabal, Illuminati, negative elite structure. For when the control tool is understood and that understanding is unravelled and processed, it ceases to be a control tool for that individual group or structure. So what that means is the distraction won't work on you. And the more this happens amongst the people, the less control they have. The negative elite have less control. And of course, this is what's happening right now on this planet, and this has been happening exponentially since 2012. It's been happening prior to 2012, but it really kicked in big time around 2011, I would say. And by 2017, last year, there is quite an evidence that this control structure is changing and has lost a lot of the tools that they had, that they were using for thousands and thousands and thousands of years on this planet to entrap the rest of humanity. Those tools are no longer working, if you like, and it's all down to us. So therefore, when you have focus, you cannot be distracted in an unconscious way, because you're focused. You cannot be distracted by anything if you hold aware focus. This is of most import to understand. Therefore, we shall repeat, you cannot be distracted by anything if you hold aware focus. Why is this? It is because if you hold aware focus, then you are always on your path and therefore not distracted. So when you're focusing on something, you can't be distracted. Even if you're focusing on a holiday or you're planning an event, you're throwing a party, and you might think, oh goodness me, I've got this big party and I really should be working. I should be writing, I should be creating my music, I should be teaching my dance, I should be facilitating the group, I should be drumming, I should be doing all these things. But really, I'm planning a party. But because you're doing it with conscious focus, and if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, that's out of alignment because you're away from the trajectory of focus. But if you're thinking, I'm focusing on this party, I'm really going to enjoy myself, I'm going to invite all my friends, I'm going to take some time off and have a great time, because you are aware of how distraction works and how it's used as a control tool, you can turn that around to your own benefit and create focus in all things, therefore you cannot be distracted. So the 9 go on to say the awareness that spreads through the group of individuals that make up the starseed community. Now, what the 9 mean here by starseed community is aware starseed community. For every human being on this planet is essentially a starseed, as in we all come in from the stars, if you like. But many individuals are living within a reality where they don't have the memories or the knowing of who and what they are. So the aware starseeds are those who do know. Regardless of where that knowing is, they might have slight feelings, I think I'm a little bit different in some way, I think I'm here for a reason, I've got memories coming back of whatever it may be. Or you may have individuals with full knowing and full awareness of all their pathways and their future and everything. That's what the 9 mean by starseed community, and I'm told that, I'm not given an actual number because it's changing all the time, but we are looking in the millions rather than the thousands. So that is who I am referring to, who the 9 are referring to. These are the aware individuals. The star-seeded ones that collectively create the entity, deity or goddess presentation of divine feminine form, that is the Princess Aurora, daughter of the flame. So we're using 5th dimensional metaphor here. So when you go into, when you look at, say, the 3rd dimension, you see form, you see everyone that's here, we're in the 3rd dimension. When you go into the 4th dimension, this is very much a sort of astral reality, it's very much a shadow reality that mirrors this dimension. When you go into the 5th dimension, you see form, but it's form within beauty, so you've got, entities and elementals, and you have angels and ascended masters, and you have unicorns, and form that is representative of frequency, because the ultimate reality is frequency. So within a 5th dimensional presentation of the starseeds as a group soul, we have an entity. So this is a metaphor, however it's also true. We do actually together create a group entity. And because this is a divine feminine return, if you like, because the divine feminine has been repressed, and we've lived in a patriarchal society, the divine feminine is showing itself now, so the movement is a feminine one. That doesn't exclude the masculine, it's very much a unity. When you look at the unity, if you like, as a oneness, you would then see that separate into male and female, if you like. So you have the goddess and the god, so we can call this Sophia Christ. The daughter of Sophia Christ, the higher source energies, if you're looking at the daughter as those in human form, in group soul level, then we have the divine princess, or the god is the king and the goddess is the queen, therefore the daughter is the princess. So in the book, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, the 9 do go into this quite deeply. They talk about the Christ Sophia template. So we're looking at the Christ Sophia as a god and a goddess, or a king and a queen. But when we go above the 5th dimension, we move into the 6th dimension, and we are looking at lack of form. There's still form there, but it is not form as we know it in a human presentation, or even an animal or elemental presentation. We're looking at sacred geometry, we're looking at frequency, we're looking at mathematics, we're looking at number. So Christ is a deity, a god. Sophia is a deity or a goddess, but the Christ Sophia template is a geometric code. So it's all the same thing, just looking at it from different dimensional perspectives. So they talk about the wisdom of the goddess. They talk about the Kali or Kali activation, Kali or Kali being another presentation of the goddess, a slightly different frequency. They talk about the Magdalene Codex, which again is the goddess frequency, the frequency that we may know as Mary Magdalene. This is Magdalene, it's a code. The Magdalene is a deity or a presentation, but metaphor when you're looking from the sixth dimensional point of view, real when you're looking from other dimensional points of view. Everything is a metaphor for that which is in the dimension above. And direction, again, is only used for our third dimensional interpretation. There is no direction in the true reality. All is one place, all is one space. So there's much that is discussed in this book about the goddess and about the divine Princess Aurora. In fact, there is a chapter in here that goes into the whole divine princess and what she is, and the Aurora matrix, as in the divine princess Aurora is the form, the princess, the deity that is the group soul, that is the collective consciousness of the starseeds. But in the sixth dimensional point of view, this is an Aurora grid, this is an Aurora matrix, it's a code. As awareness spreads, as knowledge is shared, and as awakening and DNA activation takes place, then the divine Princess Aurora, beloved daughter of the flame, of the Christed twin flame couple. So we're looking here at the twin flame energy. There's a lot of confusion within the New Age sort of light worker community about twin flames, because people will often perceive it as, I am one half of the twin flame, and I'm looking for my twin flame, and I found my twin flame, and that means that we're in love. And all of that is true within the third dimension. That's how this is represented within the third dimension. However, it does go much deeper. So when we're looking at the oneness, the unity, and its very first thought, as it separates, we would perceive that thought as an opposing frequency. And this is explained in the book as the let me just remember what that chapter is. This is explained in the book as the infinite equal reaction paradox. So this is the oneness that has an equal and opposite reaction to its thought. And that can be interpreted as the left hemisphere of the brain, the right hemisphere of the brain, as matter, the universe, antimatter, the antimatter universe, or the god, the goddess, the male, the female. So that's the twin flame. The twin flame is more than just us as people. Me and my partner are twin flames. It's more than that. And it goes deeper because you are looking at the twin, you are looking at the double helix. When you understand the twin flame, then you start to activate changes within the DNA. When you realise that the twin flame is form, but it's also a DNA activation code, it's also a grid, it's also a matrix. So all of this is explained within this book in different ways. It's explained as the form within a fifth dimensional point of view, and it's explained as code, as matrix, within a sixth dimensional point of view. And all three books do this. And the nine said to me that there are many who understand the fifth dimensional form. There are other individuals who have a thought process that takes them beyond this. And they may say, well, this is a princess, or this is an ascended master, this is a unicorn. What is it really? What does it mean? There are no unicorns, there are no ascended masters, there are no angels flying around. What is all this? So they go beyond the form, the presentation, which many embrace within the New Age community. The Lightworker community embrace this, and they are able to use these beautiful visualizations for DNA activation, but you do have individuals who want more, they want analysis. So the sixth dimension, which is matrix, code, direction, talking about up, down, forward, back, left and right, so you're looking at future, past, you're looking at above, below. These are directional explanations that will assist those who do not necessarily align fully with the fifth dimensional form. They want more information. The point is, you don't need it. You can have one person going through a full DNA activation, working with ascended masters, unicorns and fairies and rainbows, and they're going to get there just the same way as the person who understands how to change the DNA structure into a Stargate, how to work with these directional aspects of self and construct the matrix, how to understand that they are an infinite structure, how to understand what a event horizon is. This is something that other people want to know. And so the 9 tie up the 2 different perspectives together within the book. So the Christed twin flame couple, that is Christa and Christos, or Sophia and Christ. So in form, we could say Christa is the girl, Christos is the man. Sophia takes the energetic of the word. Every word has code. So Christa is a beautiful presentation of a 5th dimensional goddess. Sophia is a higher vibration because Sophia has been known for many, many thousands of years upon this planet and before our known history as the individuals within Atlantis and Lemuria understood Sophia. So if you go into ancient religions, one is the Kabbalah. At the top of the Kabbalistic tree of life, you will see, I think it's pronounced Ein Sof. It's the same thing as Sophia, and I believe Sophia is mentioned in the Bible. I'm not completely sure, but I believe Sophia is in the Bible as well. So Sophia is a code. Christ, spelled Kryst, is a 6th dimensional frequency behind it. So Christ would be perhaps 5th dimensional, even though Christ is fully within the unity. Christ consciousness is fully within the unity, but Christ is a code, is a matrix. So all this is discussed in the book. The vibrancy of her colour, her hue, presented as separate colour particles as the form you recognise in the 3rd dimension becomes merged and melded as the rainbow. So I think I've already explained how form is also code within the 6th dimension. One way of explaining how the vibrancy of her colour, her hue, presented as separate colour particles, one way of explaining that is to look at our chakras. When we first wake up spiritually, we see that we have, or we understand our energy systems as chakras, so we'd see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, or whichever colour system we use. But as we progress in our spirituality and our connection, we can see these chakras, perhaps they will change colour, or they'll glow, or they'll spin, or they will become bigger. But one way of explaining this is to merge them together as a rainbow. So, and this is the truth. You are an energy system. Your chakras are placed there because they relate to different organs of the physical body. But ultimately, you are a pure energy system. So the chakras are a rainbow, if you like. So too are you, this rainbow. For each of you is the divine particle that makes up this group soul. So if you look at particles that come together to create one unified consciousness, when you look at the truth of that, one particle and all particles are the same. When we're looking at perhaps physics, if you like, and I'm not very big on physics, I have to tell you, this information has come from the 9 and not from study of physics. But what I would say to you is you, each one of you and myself, we are all, say, one particle, but together we make up the whole, which, using the metaphor the 9 are using here, is the Divine Princess Aurora. But you, as one particle, and the Divine Princess Aurora are one. So you are the Divine Princess Aurora. And we got clues within the channeling of Divine Princess Aurora being celestial, a star, or solar, a sun. So you, if Divine Princess Aurora is a star and a sun, you are a star, you are a sun. And the 9 say to me, this is literal, not metaphor, although it is metaphor, because we are going beyond matter. So there are other stars and other suns that we cannot see that are antimatter. But what they would say is when it comes to your matter universe, this is literal. You are literally stars. You are literally suns. And this is explained through our DNA reconstruction. We can hold the consciousness, if you like, of a star or a group of stars, or a sun or a group of suns. This is the level of awareness we are moving back to as we activate this new DNA formation that is 12 strand into 144 strand. So each of us are the separate colour particles that together make up the cosmic rainbow, if you like. Central Sun, known within the matter universe as the Galactic Core. So the Galactic Core in our universe is where we would perceive matter, but the Nine say this is the central sun. The Nine tell me that our actual sun is an emanation of other suns. And there are 7 suns behind our sun, and there are 7 suns behind each of those. And I think that there is possibly a phrase either in the Bible or from biblical writings talking about the 7th son of the 7th son, how that son, as in the 7th born male child of a 7th born male child, holds power and magic and ability. But the Nine tell me this is a code, it's a memory code, for there are 7 sons, and we are all the 7th son of the 7th son, for we are that sun here in physical form. So the Galactic Core is a black hole that we know it as in this universe, but actually the Nine tell me they laugh when one says black hole because it's full of colour, and they say if you were to be dropped into a black hole, it would be like falling into a pot of paint, and you'd be coloured like a rainbow. However, they say you are not falling into a black hole, you are travelling through stargates. So the Galactic Core is a stargate because it's a central sun, but you are a central sun, which means you are a stargate, and you can travel through your own stargate. And when you do that, you change the configuration of the DNA. And if you want to know how that is done, the Nine say to me, and they've said this in the book, there is one person who sadly passed away last year, but this person presented within his work a teaching that shows you how this occurs. And I'm talking about Dr. Emoto and his work, Messages from Water. If you study Dr. Emoto and his Messages from Water, he shows you how this is done. So what he does in his experiments is show how water will vibrationally match itself to frequency, whether it's music or the frequency of a word. Now, the metaphor here is our DNA, if you like, is water, even though it is not water, it's actually plasma of sorts. That's the nearest thing it is. When we have a thought with a matching emotion, that's the frequency. So that's the music, that's the word, and our DNA responds to it. So when we hold bliss within our hearts and love within our hearts, happiness, joy, when we hold visualizations of going through a stargate, creating a stargate and going through a stargate, we actually change the structure of the DNA. So if you look at this shape here, which is a directional presentation of the DNA structure, so we've got up, down, left, right, and diagonal. So this, even though this is metaphor, the DNA responds to the visualization that you hold in a 6th dimensional sense. So you hold this visualization, and as long as it's cohesive, matching your emotion, the DNA will understand what you are doing when you construct your matrix. So you hold this, and then what you do is you actually draw in all of these directions. When I say directions, they go on forever. Each line is infinite. Each line is called an event horizon. It goes on forever, and then it matches itself. So if you go all the way up to the top, you'll come up through the bottom. If you go all the way down there, you'll come down through here. If you go all the way down here, you'll end up coming through here. These are infinite lines because it's you and you are infinite. Every individual is an infinity. But in order for us to understand this, we place an event horizon around the outside. This event horizon is a circle because each one of us are individual infinities. So there are many infinities, infinite infinities. We're all one, we're all the same infinite structure, but we're experiencing being a different infinity sitting alongside next to other infinities all at the same time. So what you do here, when you consciously trigger DNA change and DNA expansion into these quantum formations, you collapse all these different directional event horizons into one, so you take them all into the centre, and you pass through the centre which the nine call the pivot point, because you can pivot the matrix, but they also call it the nexus point. So what you do, the visualization they use for this is for you to collapse this structure, and then you create a dragon, because it's like a long line, and then you ride your dragon through the Stargate. So you would visualize a Stargate in front of you. You can do this in astral projection, deep meditation, simply daydreaming, however you wish to use your visualization. So you ride this dragon through the Stargate. And what you do when you do that is the DNA matches, just like in Dr. Emoto's Messages in Water teaching. What actually happens is the DNA implodes on itself, and then it threads itself through itself. And what it's actually doing is, as it's imploding, it's collapsing the wave. It's changing the wave structure within the DNA into particles, or it's collapsing particles into a wave. It's the same thing. It's holding memory, and it's taking the memory and passing it through the center, and it's holding memories of all that you are. Because if you don't do this, your memories are not cohesive when you either go through the death process, or obviously Ascension is taking memory with you, so you wouldn't ascend. A lot of individuals will go through the death process and their memories are dissipated. They don't have a cohesive structure to hold memory through death, because they don't know how to change the DNA structure in order to hold that. And that's what this is all about. This is all about knowing how to carry our memories, so that we can take them into the next incarnation and take them into the group soul, and so that we stand next to Source as the equal and opposite reaction, because that's what we are. So when we're originally Source, we're all innocent. We don't know anything. And we make this plea and we say, I am. And then when there's an equal and opposite reaction to that I am, and that I am is a pulse, it is a stream of energy, it's a breathing out, it's a breathing in, it's a pulse, I am, I am. And when this equal and opposite reaction stands opposite that pulse, it says, am I? So it becomes a question. So basically, interpreted into third dimensional language, what Source is saying is, I think, therefore I am, therefore I know I'm conscious. And the equal and opposite reaction is saying, how do you know you're conscious? And Source replies, because I'm thinking. Are you? What's thought? Well, I've no idea. So, of course, Source wants to find out what it is. And this is the whole teaching within many religions and spiritual teachings, which is Source seeks to know itself, or God is trying to know itself. And people will say, well, if God is all-knowing, if Source is all-knowing, how come it doesn't know itself? Well, that's because it's innocent in its first pulse, I am, and it's all-knowing in its second pulse, because once it's gone to that am I, and this is all interpreted in third dimensional terms so we can understand it, the two together, the true twin flame, decide to go down and find out. So they experience all and everything by presenting their own consciousness into every possible infinite presentation that can possibly exist in every single infinite infinity. Therefore, they experience everything, and that's omnipresence. It's multi-locational omnipresence. And then they come back with the answer, but the great conundrum or paradox here is, this is a never-ending question that we are finding out, because the answer is potentially growth and expansion. We don't come to a point where we say to Source, hey, I went through all of this and now I know I'm conscious. Here's the answer. It's ever expanding, ever expanding, ever expanding, because it's infinite. The question is infinite. That's why you are infinite. So all of this is explained within the book. She becomes so merged in colour. Tell me if you want me to stop, by the way. She becomes so merged in colour, so bright, so brilliant, that one would have to shield their eyes from her light, for she burns as brightly as your physical sun. As the divine feminine central sun, she is the plasma sun, and all as her starts from all that is you, collectively as one. So what the nine is saying here is, Divine Princess Aurora burns as brightly as the physical sun. She is the plasma sun. These are the suns behind the sun, the 7 suns, the emanations for the sun. So our actual matter universe, sun, is an emanation from the suns behind it, as I've already said, the 7th sun of the 7th sun metaphor. So Divine Princess Aurora is our sun, our galactic core, and all these plasma sun emanations behind our sun, also known as the feminine logos. So we've got the logos, which is the group soul aspect, and that can be a male logos or a female logos or a unified logos. So it can be a logos that is not non-polarized, neutral. And she is the collective of the starseeds presented as Ascended Master in 5th dimensional form, yet moving beyond this into the galactic core and the suns and the galactic grids. And this is what is so important for us, really. Our consciousness makes up all these celestial aspects within our matter universe, hence why many New Age teachers will speak of healing the planetary and galactic grids. So you'll hear this all the time. And for somebody who doesn't understand the New Age, like, what do you mean we're healing the galactic grids? These people, don't they talk all this weird language? It's crazy. Well, the 9 aim to explain this in as scientific terms as they can, through me as their channel, who's completely unscientific, although obviously I'm learning from them how to be. So the planetary and galactic grids, this is why we have grid workers. Many New Age individuals, light workers, or they may not even call themselves New Age, but they will know that they're grid workers. For example, they get drawn to stone circles and crop circles, like you, and crystals. For these are the gateways for their consciousness to create the galactic grid structures, which is the matter universe, including gravity. So as we take our memories through the DNA and we create the Stargate and ride the dragon, we're actually creating gravity and the galactic grids. So you'll have individuals who go to a crop circle and think, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I ended up driving down this road and I just so happened to see a crop circle in that field, but I've got to get out and stand in the middle of it, and I don't know why I've got to bring my crystal and bury it in the middle of the crop circle, or I don't know why I've got to take this little piece of straw out of the crop circle and take it home and put it in my garden next to my crystal, or whatever it is they're guided to do. They're actually creating, well, they're not creating grids, they are actually repairing and reconstructing them. So going back to the service of self-negative factions, one of the ways they hijacked this planet, it wasn't just through politics or the NHS, it was through the galactic grid structures and the antimatter templates. So that's the Starseeds' call, that's what they're here for, this is what they are doing. So have I got long? Yeah, you've got at least 20 minutes. Okay. So since the energetic spike upon your planet, that was your June 21st solstice point, the collective timeline jump that took place, presented as a cosmic ascension wave of consciousness, has brought to so many of you newfound awareness, newfound awakening, and a newfound experience within your consciousness. So we've just been through the summer solstice on the 21st of June. So every Sabbat at the moment, not necessarily throughout history, because obviously the galactic grids were controlled, so throughout history there would have had to have been very deep magical creation in order to create these portals, these stargates. So there have always been individuals since the beginning of history and beyond our known history that have been able to create these portals on the Sabbats. So they've been aware of the summer solstice, the winter solstice, the equinoxes. But now it's almost like the little magical circle of, say, 12 Wiccans or 13 Atlanteans working together within their pyramid or their forest. We now have huge circles of millions working together magically in this massive, great, huge circle. So they're creating stargates with all of these Sabbats. So every Sabbat right now, and it's been that way pretty much for some time, and I would say exponentially in a higher energy sense since 2011. So also alignments such as eclipses, partial eclipses, and the coming up Lion's Gate. So we have a very high energy month this July. As we go into August, we've got 2 eclipses in July. We have the partial solar eclipse on also a new moon, and it's also Friday the 13th. So this is a very high energy day because it's a Trinity. It's a new moon, it's an eclipse, and it's Friday the 13th. Now, Friday the 13th has been a hijacked date. So what that means is when a date creates high energy within the aware individuals or the non-aware individuals, as the case may be, the Service to Self factions will place a inverted matrix or inverted system on that date, number, or whatever the presenting structure may be. So Friday the 13th becomes, ooh, really scary. Don't go out on Friday the 13th. You know, it's really scary. Well, of course, it's the opposite that's true. The number 13 is the sacred number. It's the hidden number. And all of this is explained in, well, this is touched on in all three books, but explained in quite depth in the third book. So Friday the 13th is a high energy. And when you're aware of that, you're aware of the distraction that is Friday the 13th is really scary because this horror film is called Friday the 13th, so that must be true, you know, we're sending it out to the masses. When you become aware of that distraction, you then realise Friday the 13th is power. So we have, on Friday the 13th, the new moon, we have the partial eclipse, and we have the Friday the 13th energy. And then, on the full moon, 2 weeks later, which is Friday the 27th of July, we have an extremely high energy date here. This is a total lunar eclipse and full moon simultaneously. Now this is also the beginning opening for the Lionsgate portal, which was extremely significant last year in 2017, and it will be so this year as well. So this is the perfect time to be creative, to work spiritually, to do your grid work, to do your meditation, to follow your path, whatever it is you may be doing, to seal unions within business or enter new relationships or seal new upgrades within relationships, get married, whatever it is you want to do. So Friday the 27th of July begins to build the energy for the Lionsgate, which culminates on August 8th. So we have like everything sort of goes like this in these waves, and anyone who is spiritually aware will be feeling them. Feeling these energies. I know you're feeling them, I can see it. So the culmination of this particular energy is August 8th. So this would be a portal or a Stargate, but really, this energy is not really like this. This is just a linear presentation. It's really like this, kind of like more like these spirals. They're cycles, they're spiraling cycles. So this is a new cycle, and the Lionsgate is always a new cycle. Or you could say it's the start of a planetary new year. So the end of the spiritual or planetary new year would be the 26th of July. New Year's Day, for starseeds that are aware, would be the 27th of July. And the time we celebrate that new year is August 8th. So we've got a fantastic few weeks coming energetically. This brings about yet another new shift for the galactic grids and an upgraded awareness of the Divine Princess Aurora. So July 27th is the opening into that, which is the eclipse and full moon. So, you know, you don't have to be too worried about it. I've had people say to me, oh, I lost my temper on the full moon eclipse, high energy day, and I started crying. Does that mean I've messed up my energetic ascension for the next 2,000 years? No, of course not. It's about your intention and opening your heart, and there's nothing wrong with bursting into tears, getting cross. These are all messages to teach us that it's when you stay there that's the problem. When you're crying every day and you're cross for 6 months solid and you hate someone for like 15 years, that's the problem. That's what causes the trauma. And all of this is explained in Masters of the Matrix. This is really what this book is about dealing with traumas and how to integrate emotions. It's okay to be scared, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be jealous, as long as you integrate those emotions. You don't just act on them or bury them or let them sit there forever. So it's okay. You're not going to ruin your portal day by getting upset because your dishwasher broke or something. So it's fine. So this energy really starts on July 26th, which could be seen as the planetary New Year's Eve, with planetary New Year's Day being July 27th, and this portal remains open until August 13th. This is a very big, significant shift, and the 9 is saying there is yet more information to come that is not given as yet, because the information comes within these spikes, because what these spikes are DNA activations. So that's when you get your downloads, that's when you get the new information. All of this information came through to me in 8 weeks, starting around the spring equinox, which is a really high energy. In fact, it took me sort of about 4 or 5 months to write these 2 little books, which are quite sort of small. This came through in 2 months because it was a high energy spike. And if you go with the creativity, it just sometimes means you have to balance your third dimensional life, and you have to say, sorry, I can't come out for coffee today, I'm going to have to cancel this social event or whatever it may be, and sort of go with the energy. And as I was saying to Denise before we started the talk, whenever you plan something, whatever it may be, when you're spiritually aware, you think you're making a 100% plan, but actually what you're doing is creating a 50% plan. The other 50% is coming in from the universe, and you have no clue what it is until it starts happening, which is why we're partly knowing what's going on and we partly have no clue. And that's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be that way. So you can utilize this energy. So if you're a writer, this is the time to write. If you're an artist, this is the time to paint or create your artistic presentation, whatever it may be. If you're a musician, this is the time to create your music or whatever it is that you do creatively. It's very important for you to be creating something in some form. So this is a good time for signing contracts in business and romance. As I said, getting married during this time is a perfect time. Babies being born during this portal hold energy of the Rose Ray and the Lion's Gate. They're known as the children of Sirius, or the Christed ones, or the Rose Ray children. They're always carrying that Diamond Sun DNA template. So when we collectively create these portals, along with the galactic astrological alignments that are naturally occurring with the precession of the equinoxes, when we come into the alignment with that and we create these portals, then all our family of light can come in. So this is a perfect time for the incarnations of those who hold the higher DNA configuration. And many are coming in now who hold the higher configuration for the 7th strand, or the 7th dimension, which we can all get because we, like the Messages in Water by Dr. Emoto, we can catch light off one another if we're receptive. So if I hold a 7th dimensional code within me, and Denise decides that she wants to have that,
of course,
yeah, that's what these gatherings are all about, and that's what the books are about, and that's what the videos are about. We pass this to one another. The 9 say the light is catching, because we are all one and the same. So Dr. Emoto, his work shows us scientifically, if you like. There will obviously be those who call it pseudoscience and dismiss it, but for those who are open to quantum energy being a real thing rather than an imaginary thing, then we have some proof there, if you like. So these children are coming in, so there will be, incarnations coming in at this time, carrying the Diamond Sun DNA template, and I've explained about why it's a Diamond Sun DNA template, shining like the diamond, holding the configuration of the diamond, the many facets, which is a gemstone that shows a quantum reflection or radiation. Many, many reasons why our DNA template can be likened to a diamond sun. So all children born on these dates have 7th strand potential. It's an influx gateway for higher soul star births, as in full star celestial consciousness, as opposed to stardust consciousness. So this is new information. This isn't in the book. This only came through when I wrote this earlier this afternoon. So what they're saying here is some individuals are holding the consciousness of a full star. This is metaphor, but it is literal, meaning an entire star decided to incarnate as one human being, or an entire star decided to incarnate as 200 beings, or 2,000, or 1,000,000. So the consciousness of the star can choose, if you like. So you're made of stardust because you've got a piece of star, or you're a whole star, and this is to do with your DNA. Your DNA simply reflects a celestial configuration. So it's metaphor, but it's also literal because we are those celestial bodies. They are our true form, if you like. This newfound experience is that which we call bilocation and trilocation, and it equates to triple helix and beyond the triple helix DNA formation, which is a match to predominantly fifth strand dimensional consciousness, for it is the reconstruction of the fifth DNA strand, if you will. So I've spoken about the fifth DNA strand. So the new awareness that began around the spring equinox this year in March and expanded around the summer solstice, continuing with that expansion through these July eclipses and the Lion's Gate that's coming up in the next few weeks, is a bilocation double concept, twin flame, 2 earth model, master numbers 222222 beyond double helix into triple helix. So bilocation is a consciousness, and the 9 speak very much about this bilocation, trilocation of consciousness. It's all in the book, it explains it quite deeply. So bilocation of consciousness is very much like you have a thought and you process that thought. But bilocational consciousness would be you have 2 thoughts and you're processing both those thoughts simultaneously. Both those thoughts may be opposing, and not only do you process them both, but you embrace them both and you believe them both. This is why somebody who's perhaps not on a spiritual path will say to you, you're contradicting yourself all the time, because one minute you said this and now you're saying that, so which is it? Well, of course it's both. So this is bilocational consciousness, and there is a book called 1984 by Daniel, who's the author of this, 1984? Yeah. And he talks in there about doublethink and how the powers that be won't allow you to go into doublethink because, you know, you get arrested or whatever. Well, you're going into bilocational consciousness when you do that. So what you're doing when you go into bilocational consciousness is you take the code of 2, which is, as they say, the twin flame. We will take the consciousness of our awareness of our planetary system. So we may see 1 Earth, but we may also see 2 Earths. So you will have seen, if you've studied or followed many Ascension teachings within the New Age, you will be learning about the 2 Earth splits, the 2 Earth model. We've got 3D Earth and we've got 5D Earth. This is a very, very good model. It's metaphor, but it's more literal than we would think it is. For in truth, there are infinite Earths. But we start off by understanding perhaps that there's 2. So 3D Earth is where all the 3D people are, and 5D Earth is where all the starseeds are, and that is a good model as long as we don't take that into, I'm in 5D and you're stuck in 3D. It's meant to be all-embracing, and we're supposed to be there to help everybody, and we jump between the Earths. So it's a metaphor for our DNA. So what we're doing in 3D, we're in double helix. When we get to 5D, we're beyond the double helix. We've gone into triple helix, and then we've gone into beyond the triple helix as well. That's 5D. So it's difficult to see the jump, but it's explaining the way the strands form in these spiraling patterns, which in the channeling is explained as more and more brightness of light, becoming unrecognisable as form and presenting as pure light, the rainbow or the diamond sun, it's all the same thing.
How much more? Because people may want questions or a meditation or something. What's a good spot?
Whatever
you choose.
Whatever you want to do. I mean, I just...
I can do questions.
Okay.
For a show of hands for questions, and then we'll do a show of hands for meditation.
Well, I know you've got one because I've been seeing it for ages.
I've got an infinite one.
Give me my question.
Let me just see if I understand what it is you're saying, and then I can maybe ask the question. So if what I've heard, whether it's right or wrong, is effectively we're all cosmic beings existing in a physical realm, which are existing on a 3-dimensional realm, which is determined by our DNA, which we bring with us codal information from a different dimension, and we can affect that DNA by a thought process which is detaching from the control mechanism around us to improve that DNA structure to transcend into different levels.
Absolutely. Spot on. Yeah.
Right, okay. So therefore, my point being, and we're all part of one.
Yes.
We are all the one.
Exactly.
So therefore, the question I've got, which is when, and I always have this question when people say this, kind of thing. And this is the first time I've ever been to one of these things, by the way.
Is it really?
I've never been involved.
Wow.
I've done a lot of thinking about it. I'm born on August the 13th, so I'm right into that.
Wow.
Excellent.
But this is my mum, by the way, who does it. My mum's into all of this, and she'll tell you I've dissed it for many years. But
As you do.
But recently I've started to think about it a bit more. So my question is, so whenever anybody mentions things like Illuminati or things like that, and in a negative sense, which is what I took from what you were saying, it was a negative thing, I kind of come at it from a different angle, because you can't have a negative in anything, because everything is part of a positive. We can't have light without dark, you can't have good without bad, you have to have one without the other. So the only way we can be at this point in our evolution is because we had control mechanisms.
Yeah.
We've had thousands, 3 to 6,000 years worth of control mechanisms, which has got us to this place where we are now. If you use a Maslow's hierarchy, we're at a place where we can start to think about things, because a structure of society has been built around us, which means we're not living in a nation, let's say in an African country, where we fight for our food and we have to walk 10 miles to get water every day. So we've got the privilege of being able to think about ourselves a little bit. So therefore, my question is, why is it that that's a negative? I see it as a positive, that they've given us the power and ability to be able to help ourselves. Does that make sense? I don't know.
But it does, absolutely, and it's a fantastic question, and the concept you are holding is very, very difficult for people to understand. The reason why it is a negative within the third dimension is due to the fact that there's been great harm created, specifically to children. I'm talking about paedophilia on a mass scale. I'm talking about child sex trafficking, you name it. So that's why it's a negative from a third dimensional point of view. But everything you say is completely and utterly correct. And in this book here, right at the very end, I asked a question at the end of this book after bringing forward all of this information. And I'm just trying to find this part. And I said to the 9, right at the very end, after a series of questions, I said to them, okay, so here we have 9 questions for the 9, chapter 14. These are very small chapters. And right at the very end, I said, that I basically asked the question that you're asking. Perhaps this is coming beforehand. Wait a minute. Where is it? Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. So, yeah. So it really does answer your question. I'm just going to find out.
While you're looking for it, I'll expand on it a little bit.
Yes,
because, again, when you mention things like child sex abuse, you mention, and people are probably not going to like what I'm about to say, but again, it's something I think about. I think it's impossible for any of us on this third dimension, let's say, in this life we're living, to say anything is bad or good.
I agree
because
with
it's
you,
a subjective opinion. And so if, for example, you look at the likes of Hitler, let's just stick with that one for now. Looking backwards with hindsight, it was terrible things he did, but at the time millions of people believed in him and thought he was wonderful. Now, sitting here today, what he did is just a memory, it means nothing. But you can see the reality as a result of the things that happened at that time. Millions of people have got lots of good things. We haven't had wars for years. We've got a state of Israel that people live in the place they want to live. And loads of things. But you could never envisage any of that happening. And if you look at the Manchester bomb that happened recently, terrible for a personal level, for all the people involved. But out of that has come so much good. Because now there's millions of children thinking about that positively and doing good things as a direct result of that terrible thing. So without that terrible thing, these good things wouldn't be happening. And therefore, that's why I find it a little bit difficult to grab the concept of, because I look at it all, it's all meant to happen, we're all part of it, it all has to be for anything to be. Without a light, you'll never experience being out of darkness without somebody shining a torch. So you have to have that. And that's why I say about the Illuminati type comments being, it's all part of progression. Yeah.
As I said, the concept you're holding is very difficult for people to understand. There are lots of people who can't get to that. And the reason why I couldn't find the question is I've picked up the wrong book. That's the question I basically asked. This chapter is called the 13th question. And my question to the 9 was, what question has not been asked here? Regarding the Masters of the Matrix material, is there anything left unsaid that needs to be said? And this is everything that you've said, perhaps not talking about exactly the examples. So the 9 are saying only this. Those that infiltrate the Matrix are you. This has not been done to you, but by you. And when you understand this, you free yourself and become a master of the Matrix. When we say to you that there are those who would hijack your Matrix for nefarious reasons, gain sustenance from your fear and prevent your sovereignty, we say to you that you live in a reality of polarity and contrast. You learn that which you need to learn by experiencing its polar opposite. You learn what it is that you want and need as a creative being by virtue of knowing what you do not want and need. This takes place on an individual level and a global planetary level. For you to experience growth and expansion at an exponential rate, you need to experience free will. There are universes that are non-free will universes, such as yours was in earlier times. In order to experience free will, you need to make decisions and choices, and you cannot do this unless you know what you want and need. So this goes, by virtue of experiencing that which you do not want, and that which you do not need, you discover what you do want, therefore you can make a decision. So it's like, these are the Illuminati, they are really horrible and dark and doing these awful things, I do not want this. Or, even deeper, that is them and I am not this. So by virtue of seeing what the Illuminati are, we see what we are not. Then we go one step further and see what we are. So basically, from that point of view, one would say thank you to the Illuminati. We're in gratitude for you for all the teachings you have given us. It's the same thing as saying thank you to the traumas we've experienced. Thank you for experiencing that awful situation where I'm so depressed and upset. Gratitude is part of the integration. Having said all that, we cannot just live there and say all is positive, all is amazing, because we sit back and do nothing. What we must do is come back to the third dimension and say there's sex trafficking going on, there are paedophilia is going on a grand scale, and children are being stolen and harmed, and there are loads of other atrocities going on, and I'm going to do whatever I can to stop it. So we must work with both. But everything you say is correct.
Any other questions?
Well, I guess mine's about. I'm Annie. Hi. You mentioned
Oh,
about.
you only said.
Yeah,
Oh,
hello.
you only said what? You're right next to me.
Yeah, and you just mentioned a broken dishwasher, which I have.
Oh,
Thank you for that. I guess my question is about 3D, 5D. You know, working on yourself so that you can get to 5D. And all the the awful things that are going on in the world, like we've got 5G coming into Bournemouth and things like that.
yeah.
And I asked you about sort of before about campaigning about these things, and are these things distractions, or do we just work on ourselves and making sure that we're with our families? Or like, I'm a mum to a 5-year-old and an 11-year-old. Do I make sure that I'm a good mum to them and I'm giving them my attention, or do I go and campaign on 5G not being taking over? And affecting people's health locally. I do share lots of information online about child sex trafficking and all the awful things that are going on in the world because I want to raise awareness. But it's kind of, I'm always sort of trying to work out how best to live my life in that way.
Okay.
And be,
Okay, so what I would say is from a structure, from a higher dimensional point of view, looking at the way the structure is set up, as in answering the call, the starseeds have answered the call. What the higher dimensional light, as in all of us from a higher point of view, if you like, will have done is set up a system whereby these people are here to do this and these people are here to do that. And from another point of view, I would say you chose before you were born that you would do this, this and this, and you would experience this and do this. So there are some individuals who are here to protest and to get out in the streets and hold their banners up and to post things all over the internet. This is the indigo individuals, the indigo revolution. There are other individuals that are here purely as healers, to catch those who've fallen, to catch those who are hurt, and to tend them and heal them. This is the crystal individuals, and there's a whole range of different vibrations in between. So really, to find out whether this is a distraction or not, is to look at your focus within it. How do you feel when you are going into this movement? So if you decide to share things all over the internet about these things, or if you decide to go off and protest, how are you feeling? Are you feeling empowered? Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling, yep, I'm doing the right thing, I'm making a choice, I'm making a stand, I'm doing what I can? Or are you thinking, do you know what, this doesn't really feel right, I should be at home doing something else. I should be writing a book, or I should be painting a picture, or I should be healing or taking a workshop, or I should be tending my children, or I should be sitting in the garden meditating with flowers, or where are you supposed to be? And that can change. Now, looking at you, specifically in your energy, you're not really there. However, what you are here to do, looking at you individually and not looking at everyone, is it's like you're looking, your eyes are open, you're looking there. What's this? Looking, what's that? Okay, you're gathering information, but your trajectory is not necessarily, I'm off, I'm going to London, I'm outside the Houses of Parliament, and I'm going to stand with this massive group and I'm going to scream and shout. That's not really you, it is others. We are all coming together with this movement in all these different roles, and the reason for this, when I first learned about the Cabal, the Illuminati, if you like, and how they structured their families, after I sort of went in and remote viewed, I wasn't allowed to actually go in and, I wouldn't say I wasn't allowed, but the 9 would prevent me from going in and remote viewing a lot of these atrocities. I wasn't ready to go in and see them. And then when I got to the point where I was then, they said, you are ready now, you have the tools and you can go in and look. And I found that each Illuminati or Cabal child is trained from birth for the system that they will go into. So this child will be in politics, this one will be the president, or this one will be in media, they're going to be the owner of the BBC or whatever, and this one's going to go into media, music. So this one will be spiritual, this one will be, Catholic monk or priest. They're all placed in these different main structures that control the planet. And I looked at this and I said to the 9, well, if all the Illuminati children are trained from birth for the job they're doing, how can we possibly hope to match that? As we're all waking up now, but, how are we going to match that? And the 9 said to me, but you have all been trained from birth. The starseeds have been trained from birth, from day one. Everything you've ever done in your life is training for this time period. And when you see that and look back and think, my goodness me, that's why I did that sort of when I was like 19, or this is why I experienced this. We've all been trained from birth for the job we're here to do. So you look back and see what you've done, what you've been led into, and you will see where your trajectory goes. Another way of discovering whether what you're doing is right for you or not, because as I said, it's not wrong to protest, it's not wrong to post sex trafficking or Donald Trump videos all over Facebook. It's not wrong to do that, but is it in alignment with you for the mission you're here for, or is it in alignment with you for that time? It might be in alignment for you 1 week, it might not be in alignment for you for the other. So it's finding out what your alignment is. It's finding out how to understand what does alignment mean. So it's coming into this resonance with truth. And one way you can do that is a very simple statement, is to actually make a truthful statement that you know is true. This is because, again, if you look at the Messages from Water by Dr. Emoto, your body and all the energetic system that makes up your body knows all that's ever happened, all that's happening now, and all that ever will happen. It knows all things. Therefore, you can make a statement and you can feel whether this is true or not. So if I say, my spiritual name is Magenta Pixie, I'm in alignment. My birth name is Petra. I'm in alignment. My birth name is Jane. I'm like shooting over here. I'm like, oh gosh, my name's not Jane. This is what I mean. So it's very simple to just actually make the statement, my birth name is. Or, I have brown hair, or whatever statement you want to use. But using your name is a good one because you're going right to the core of who you are. I've had a few clients say, I don't like my name, it's not working. So it doesn't always work. But if you are okay with your birth name and you know it's your birth name, you can go into the core of you. And what you do is you practice this and you learn to feel what's it like when I make a statement of truth. Do you see colour? Do you see an arrow going forward? Do you feel balanced? What is it that you feel that's different from when you make a statement that's not true? And there's your alignment. And you can do it with anything.
Thank you.
Time, Magenta.
Oh, okay, time. You love time.
Oh, yeah. Not because of that, but yeah. But that was good.
Yeah.
But that Jess Elder, I think it is, on Facebook lately, he's done a thing about time, that there is no time, that everything you ever think of. So if I think of a memory from my childhood, that's still happening now.
Yes.
Or we're still in the Stone Ages, or because there is no time and there's no future.
Yeah.
It's all happening now, and I can't get my mind. Oh, it's
right. So this is the structure. So if you're looking at you as a child, well, actually this is more of a 3D structure. There's actually one of these little rainbow lines going this way, and there's one going this way out the back. Okay. So you as a child, you're back here because it's the past. So this is you from a linear point of view, making sense of your energy field. But you as a child is part of your energy field. It's part of your matrix, but it's back here because it's in the past. Whereas this is like your now, this is your future. But if this is an infinite structure and you can collapse the entire wave, it's actually one time in the true reality. Therefore, everything that you've ever, not every day you've ever experienced in a linear line, but we're looking at the quantum as well. So these are all the choices that you could have made throughout your entire existence as Jackie. So all the decisions, so every single decision you could have ever made as a child, we're going along an infinite line along here, we're going along an infinite line along here, and an infinite line back here. So you can choose to take them. So I'm sat within my matrix, this is me, this is the pivot point, which will be your solar plexus, and you draw it up to the heart. So your solar plexus is the pivot point anchor, and you always draw it up to the heart. So the pivot point is here, so that's where the nexus is. So if I want to get to the part of me that's a child, I'm going to go back. And it's just a visualization tool, and it's very effective because you are travelling. This is the Merkaba. You'll have heard about the Merkaba. This might not look like a Merkaba like you've seen on the internet. It's a different presentation. But that's what the Merkaba is, these interlocking triangles. It's just another metaphor for the toroidal field spiraling system that is a geometric structure that is the true energy. So you can travel in your Merkaba. You're activating your Merkaba. So you go back to Jackie and you can draw memories forward that you have experienced as a child. You can go back and heal Jackie as a child. So all the times when Jackie went through trauma, when she was like 3, and again at 6, and again at 9, 10, 11, whatever, go back and visualise Jackie, hug her, cuddle her, say, I'm always there for you. And then when you come back to the pivot point, you've changed your past, you've time travelled within your Merkaba, you've changed your past, and you've now jumped into a different infinity because you've just healed some trauma. So it didn't actually happen. Even though it did happen in your memory, it didn't actually happen because there is no time. So, yeah. Well, no, I'm just using that as an example. Aren't you looking?
But maybe you've done it already.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's why you've forgotten it all.
So yes, the answer to your question is there is no time, and it's a tough one to get your head around.
It really is, yeah.
Is it fair to? I've thought about this. It's a good question. Time. It's always something people pick up on, isn't it? And time. If you take time as we know it, go to a different planet, it won't exist because we measure it from different perspectives. But I thought about this a little bit, and I thought of it like this. Tell me if your opinion's wrong on it or anybody else. We live in a universe of infinite potentiality. Everything that can happen is there to happen. So, for instance, a simple analogy I use to myself, if I decided to move my hand that way, I could have decided to move it any way So therefore, the potential to do all of those things has to exist.
Yes.
Because I couldn't have done that without the potential to do everything else. So therefore, everything has to exist. And the potential for everything to exist is there.
And that's all
how I
along,
look at it.
that's the choice, that's this line.
Is that what that is?
That's
Okay.
it's simply,
What did I do?
it's simply a directional structure so that the third dimensional brain, so your third dimensional brain is an interface, the code, and reality is a code. So this is simply just one model. There are lots and lots of models out there. I mean, this is simply just one. And it doesn't matter, really, the best model for you is your own. Of course it is. But sometimes we need to perhaps look at someone else's model in order to assist us in creating our own. Sometimes our own models just come to us. You have clearly got quite a good formation of your own model going on. But it will all come to the same conclusion because we're all looking at the same reality. However, it's so vast that there are many, many perspectives to it. So we can come up with what may seem like opposing viewpoints. But once we start looking at all these different directional aspects, we realise that actually there are multi-perspectives, which is multi-location. This is the next step on from tri-location, which is beyond the fifth strand. But interestingly enough, when it comes to DNA, and this isn't something I explained, the Nine have said to me that up until the fifth strand, we are looking at pretty much not completely linear, but when we're going from, say, one, well, we don't have one strand, we have two, we have a double helix, that's linear. When we move slightly beyond the double helix into the triple helix, it's a non-linear, but it's still a little bit linear still. There's still a linear process to it. Beyond the triple helix, it is also linear. But when we come to the fifth strand, once we get to the fifth strand, we then go non-linear. So we can look at it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 12, 3, 7, 9, 4. We jump around, meaning that that's multi-location, which is what you're talking about. That's your DNA memory is activating in a multi-locational sense when you say what you just said. That doesn't mean you're fully multi-locational because we haven't got there as a collective yet. But you are able to access multi-locational consciousness here and there as you move through the concepts that you need to move through within your evolution.
I'd love to say thank you very much, Magenta. That is blowing my mind. So thank you, everybody, for coming.
In this channeled transmission, I enter into an expansive, transformative and activating exploration of interdimensional dialogue, discussing the mechanics of Stargate Ascension. This cutting-edge information holds key codes, maps and coordinates for the starseeds on Earth, as they go through this process of DNA reconstruction and regrouping of cosmic memory themselves. The significant codex of information is downloaded to the reader, as they, through this sacred text, are called by the Dragon, Excalibur, Crystalline Light Geometry, Atlantis, and the Emerald Flame. I am so very pleased to present my new book, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame.